Look into this dark, unforgiving glass eye, the mesh of the microphone. Tell it your deepest thoughts, hopes, fears, and desires. We will take these emotions, turn them, and feed them back to you, for we have goals that your feelings will assist. This is how we rule, from the shadows, playing your emotions like puppet strings. We lead you to destinations that we have prepared, and you willingly oblige, thinking these decisions to be your own. When you do as we wish, we reward you, and when you go against us, we punish you. In a million subtle ways, we influence your supposedly free choice. By this method, we rule over a population convinced that they are the masters of their own destiny. Welcome to the Empire of Lies.
Welcome indeed back again to the Empire of Lies. I'm Yiz the Eunuch. My friend Chris here, Newsfist, and we are going to be presenting to you tonight the next installment in our educational series, Empire of Lies, where we cover the biggest and the meanest of lies that we all labor under today. The stream starting a few minutes late. I do apologize for that, but I had an excellent stream opportunity that sprang into my lap a few hours ago. I got to stream on my friend Chloe, her channel, Proper Horror Show, with Harry from the Lotus Eaters. We got to talk about one of my favorite movies, Christine. So I definitely recommend, if that sounds fun for you, go check that out. Tonight, before we get started, I would like to remind you guys that Chris and I split the proceeds that we bring in from this show. And of course, like always, we will be reading those out at the end of this stream series. So Entropy, PayPal, Cash App, etc. If you would please kindly share your hard-earned dollars with us as we work hard to bring you educational and inspirational material. Tonight, you might have guessed from the rather blatant title, we are going to be talking about specifically what global communism is. Marxism and communism are words that get thrown around a lot, sometimes accurately, sometimes not. But the things we're talking about today are absolutely what communism, Marxism has led us to, and what modern day communism seeks to do to us. Chris, are there opening things you would like to talk about? Anything you'd like to preface this show with?
Just that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are an incredibly broad series of policies that were originally formulated, I think, back in 2017, and is kind of the end point of the sort of global multinational urge to reform the world to do better. And of course, because a lot of these goals to do better, to make the world a better place, are effectively open-ended. They have no endpoint. And as very smart people have pointed out, when your job is to fix a certain problem, the fixing of the problem is not in your interest, because once the problem is fixed, the money goes away. You're going to be out of a job. We see this in many, many places in society, whether it's the gender pay gap or the trans this or the eliminating poverty. This is essentially known as a transitional demand. So a transitional demand is a very, very vague or transformative demand that you don't ever expect will actually be fulfilled. The goal is not for it to be fulfilled. The goal is to keep the sort of infrastructure behind the pushing for that political project alive and running. And you could basically say that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are the biggest set of transitional demands ever birthed in the world. They touch every single aspect of every person's life. They are mutually contradictory. So if you fulfill one, then by definition, you cannot fulfill another. So it's sort of a framework by which the UN can continually exercise more and more control, suck in more and more money, and they will never, ever be in a position where they can say, oh, yes, now the sustainable revolution has finally been completed, much like the ideas of equality under Marxism, under communism. It just keeps going. Once power has been gained by such groups, they never willingly give it up. they were never planning to. And besides, you can always pay someone to find something that is not yet equal, meaning there's still work to do. And this is indeed a favorite phrase that you find from these people. There's always more work to be done. Things must always move faster now. Oh my God, things are backsliding. Stuff is even worse now than it was.
Line must always go up, not just in regards to finances.
Another curious sort of feature of the transitional demand, generally speaking, is that whenever things get worse as a result of the policies that are instituted, there is never a step back and a sense of reflection. Gee, did the thing that we do make things worse? Oh no, the problem is that things got worse because we were not given enough power. It is a self-licking ice cream cone. It is a sort of incredible sort of self-contained way of getting more and more money, power, and influence. It is never the policies themselves that have made things worse, merely the lack of not more of them. And of course, we see this around us every day when it comes to things like immigration, government control. The problems are not from immigration. The problem is that we haven't had more immigration, for example. So yes, that's my basic preamble. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to preface this with saying that even though I often commonly say that all types of isms are anti-whiteism for purposes of mimetic warfare and countering hostile propaganda, there is a difference between different structures of governance, different economic programs, different political ideologies. And this stream is about the culmination of a particular set of doctrines and policies, which are communism. And so this is not an episode in which I will be making the parallel that a certain ism is just anti-whiteism, because we are actually talking about proper communism as it is in the modern day, as a structure and as policies. So I just wanted to preface it with that for all of you white well-being bros that are in the chat today. So, Chris, I have some things prepared for later. You have the slides loaded. After Chris's presentation, which is excellent, by the way, he will wet your whistle. He will explain to you what the communism of the world is today, what they actually mean when they say all of the things that they say. I will be showing you what they are implementing and how it intersects with anti-whiteism, or white erasure, as we say. And then, of course, I'll be wrapping that up with something positive, as we like to do on this channel, because we are not hopeless. We are not black-pilled. So, Chris, if you are ready, my friend, you can take it away.
Okay, let's just ensmallen. That is the graphic. Right. Okay, let's get into it.
It's paused already.
It's paused already. Now, I originally started writing this episode on the idea of soft techno-nationalism. So we all know that the incoming Labour government in the UK, which is really the Blair government, is absolutely hot and heavy for digital ID, and that a crisis will be needed to push the policy through. Immigration would make a great crisis to do this. Blair has already said a number of times that digital ID would be the way to solve the immigration problem. So what if Labour went with a soft globo-homo nationalism, a sort of technocratic back to Fresh Prince, as it were? We are all equal in this great country of ours. Everyone has a digital ID. The rich, the poor, we are all brought together. It is a guarantee of your basic rights, access to our great NHS, for etc. As much as we wish to do good in the world, we are only a small island, and we cannot save the entire world. We believe in solving problems at their source with greater foreign aid, but we must ensure that Britain will work for those already here, and digital ID is a way to ensure that. This is me sort of paraphrasing the speech that I would imagine Starmer would make. There is too much crime on our streets. Much of that is enabled by money laundering. By cracking down on illicit use of money through central bank digital currencies, we will be able to stop crime and make Britain a safer place for everyone. Soft techno-nationalism would revert socially in some ways back to Fresh Prince, while cementing digital public infrastructure and central bank digital currencies. If they started deporting people who were not eligible, which is something Labour could very easily do, since they are the left and the entire civil service will actually obey them, unlike the Tories, They could co-opt the anti-immigration feeling and get people to actually clamor for digital ID if it meant getting rid of some of the migrants, not very many. They could also use the excuse that it would reduce rents, make a fairer system, replace universal credit with universal basic income, etc. Additionally, central bank digital currencies would be a great way to deal with the economic fallout from the inevitable inflation that would be caused by reducing the migrant population, revaluing the currency, enabling micro lending so that people could buy with loans. If you can't afford a pizza, perhaps the government could pivot to becoming a micro lender of last resort, enabling citizens to take out small loans that will be guaranteed to be paid out of UBI. This could be an excellent way of clawing back money from UBI by ensuring that a significant proportion of the population had government loans linked to their UBI, the payments for which would be automatically taken out. Now, I believe that this train of thought was sparked by Morgoth's latest video, which I highly recommend, in which he points out that the current political formula lacks buy-in because it is too broad and too diffuse. This is one of the problems with not having any conception of a nation state. There is nothing to bind people together in a political formula that will make them support you. Remember always that as harsh as the government can seem at times, it is very bad rulership to institute a system that has to be relied upon by force. The true statesman, the true leader, makes a political formula that people will support and only uses force against the die-hard holdouts, against those who completely reject that political formula. That formula must be something that the vast majority of people can get on side with, and I don't believe that the current global citizen political formula, which is what the SDGs are based on, is going to work. However, I don't think that's going to stop them, ladies and gentlemen. This has gone too far at this point, and I really firmly believe that the leaders that want global communism are not good leaders. I believe that they are essentially enamored by the leftist view of power. They believe that the only reason anyone ever follows anyone else is because they are forced to. And they also believe that the only reason why everyone is not a leftist or a communist is because they have been duped by power to see that leftism is not, is against their own interests. Marx, of course, talks about this. He calls this false consciousness. These people make very bad leaders. They do not try to persuade. They do not try to convince. They do not try to create a political formula that people can buy into. Even if this political formula is more or less of a lie, you still need some kind of political formula. Just telling everyone that they are part of the Globo Homo Rainbow Collective and sticking a boot on their neck is not going to cut it. And of course, ruling in this way is very inefficient. You have constant rebellions. You need to beef up the military. You need to beef up the police force. Everybody hates you. You cannot go and walk among your citizens without very heavy protection. And the more this cycle continues, the more the leaders have to lock themselves behind high walls, the more they are hated by the population, and the more they are ignored by the population, essentially. Everyone starts to live in a society where it is widely understood that the government is completely corrupt and no one believes anything they say. Look at late stage Soviet Union if you want a good sort of example of the kind of society that this leads to. It is inherently unstable and cannot last for a very long period of time. However, for those who have the kind of power fantasies that make them believe that society is essentially like a game of Civilization or a large train set, which they like to sort of loom over, change things here or there, believing themselves to be benevolent leaders, this is the kind of stuff that they really like. The political formula that the global managerial elite want is the global citizen. Wait. Pardon me. The smart money must eventually realize that constantly widening the political formula to its ultimate end, which is the global citizen, will not produce buy-in if the global citizens are too poor to travel. The entire original concept of a global citizen, as formulated in the early 2000s, was that you could move or settle anywhere on the globe. You could vacation in different countries, meet different people, and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same. Don't you know? There is no real difference between anyone, anywhere on the earth, because genetics, of course, is a bunk science, don't you know? This was supported by tourist zones where many people could go and experience an ersatz sanitized version of local culture, stripped of all its animosity and ugliness in return for tourist dollars. As net zero progresses and people are increasingly unable to leave the country of their birth for tourism, this effect will decline, bolstered by having to live around those different populations in ways that are not sanitized. And unlike the experience that one gets as a tourist, this will continue to lead to increasing ethnic tension and more nationalism and ethnic in-groups. The political formula that the globalist managerial elite want is the global citizen. If you have not heard this term before, you are about to hear a lot about it. The term has been kicking around in elite circles for many decades, and it is now making its way into the education system through the auspices of the United Nations as we speak. James Lindsay did an excellent video on this, by the way, that I highly recommend. Essentially, the global citizen is the ultimate atomized and deracinated man. He has no homeland, no identity, no ethnicity. He is bound to neither place nor people. Instead of any kind of ancestry or history, his entire purpose is to fulfill the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, or to give it its full name, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Oh,
Boy, doesn't that sound like a dystopian hell?
Oh, it sounds great. I mean, look, 2030, of course, is obviously a very important year for all of the globo homo types. They love it, and obviously they are extremely intelligent people. They know what they're doing. If you think about it, who are we really to try and have control over our own lives? Don't you realize that things are very complicated? Yes, so complicated now, in fact, that you cannot even trust what it is that your eyes are telling you. I hope you've got an
Trust
expert
not
on
my
hand.
lying eyes, you say.
Well, you need an expert on hand, yes, to constantly interpret reality for you. Fortunately, Google, I believe, will be coming to the rescue soon. You will be able to have Chat GPT in your pockets at all times.
And
if
very
you have
soon,
any,
probably injected into my brain and my eyes so it can think and see for me as well. Wouldn't that be great?
absolutely, and if you have any troubling thoughts about the complex things that you're seeing around you, don't worry. You can always rely on AI to tell you what to do. So this is the preamble for the 2030 agenda, and I just thought I would go through some of this with you guys. Excuse me. This agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace in larger freedom. What the hell does that even? In fact, when you read this stuff, I've got to say the reaction I often have is, "What does this even mean?" I imagine it's because I'm not smart enough to discern the deeper meaning. Obviously, we recognize that eradicating poverty in all of its forms and dimensions, okay, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. All countries and all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. I feel like this needs to have like a choir underneath it, like an angelic choir, like,
Because
oh,
the reason why this is confusing to me and you and everyone listening to this is the dogma of a religion that we are not part of. This is the proclamation of a priest to a God that we don't know. This is a cabal that we are not allowed to know what they're really up to. It is obtuse, and NWO doublespeak exists specifically for this reason, so they can safely talk about the evils they plan to do to us and are doing to us without sounding like the villains they are.
yes, those evils are for your own good. I hope you realize that, right?
Oh, forgive me, comrade. The walls have ears.
Well, yes, look. Once we've taken you to the re-education camp, you will see. We are resolved to free the human race from the tyranny of poverty and want, and to heal and secure our planet what does any of this mean? We are determined to take the bold and transformative steps which are urgently needed to shift the world onto a sustainable and resilient path. Okay, comrade. As we embark on this collective journey, we pledge that no one will be left behind, unless they're white, right?
or a Christian.
Yeah, or or the races. We're going to be leaving
Right.
them behind, obviously.
Yeah.
The 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 targets, which we are announcing today, demonstrate the scale and ambition of this new universal agenda. They seek to build on the Millennium Development Goals and complete.
This really sounds like a speech you would hear a Bond villain give in a Bond movie, doesn't it?
Actually, it reminds me of Chancellor Sutler from V for Vendetta.
Oh, it does. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very much so. Yeah.
They seek to realize the human rights of all and to achieve gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls, presumably with big mecha suits or something like that, right?
No, they're going to know. Of course, we know what this means. Empowering women means disempowering, crippling, and removing men. We know that.
Yeah. They are integrated and indivisible and balance the three dimensions of sustainable development: the economic, the social, and the environmental. You guys tired of ESG yet? It's mate, you ain't seen nothing yet. The goals and targets will stimulate action over the next 15 years in areas of critical importance for humanity and the planet. Thank you very much. It really is like a crazy dictator speech.
It really is. And one of the meme pathogens, the mental pathogens that I always notice in NWO doublespeak like this is the phrase human race. That's a nonsense. That's like saying, I don't know. That's like saying, that's like calling all dogs the poodle race. Like, all dogs are not poodles. All humans are not only that.
I thought the very word race was a bit on the nose now. I mean,
yeah.
I think maybe that's what global citizen is meant to replace. They'll be like, oh, don't say human race anymore. There's no such thing as racist.
Well, no, I think that the goal, Chris, is to eventually phase out human and race to one word that they call something like citizen or participant or consumer, and everyone who isn't that, who doesn't have the digital ID, who doesn't have the mark of the beast, is a non-person, someone who is legally allowed to be killed or hurt.
I mean, this is essentially the function of the word comrade, right?
Exactly.
It was a gender neutral, race,
and the doublespeak term for that back in the day was fellow traveler.
Yes, that basically demonstrates your alignment to the party. One of the most striking things about the United Nations is how many people believe reflexively that it is a good and neutral institution, despite having literally no idea how it functions or what it does. If you ask the average person, they think the UN is there to, quote, bring peace or something like that. They often have a very similar view of the European Union, which is unsurprising as they both use the same propaganda techniques and broadly represent the same worldview. However, I think that may be changing. To be against the UN or concerned about its activities used to be solely a crazy right-wing position, although some left-wingers were also against the UN, to be fair. But with the advent of the pandemic treaty, more people are beginning to question the utility, motives, and efficacy of the UN. However, the political class, of course, is still firmly on board. For example, when a petition about the pandemic treaty got over 100,000 citizens in the UK asking for a withdrawal, the UK government response was just no. I do not exaggerate when I say that the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are essentially the backbone of global communism, formulated in an intentionally vague way that gives as much power to the United Nations as possible. The SDGs cover every facet of human existence and action. Wait, I think I've got it. Yes, here we go. There's the graphic. They are also contradictory by design, so that for any given action, someone following them must look up to an expert who can tell which SDG has prominence at any particular time. This is very, very important. People seem to be very susceptible to this sort of idea. oh my God, things are too complex. You can't possibly know what to do. You need to like look up to an expert. And don't get me wrong, there are indeed many circumstances in life where this is true. However, this also provides a great hook to get people to do things that are manifestly against their interests by lying to them. And then when the repercussions of those things come back on them, say, oh, well, you just can't tell. You just think it's bad because you haven't been to university. Before I get on to the SDGs, though, a small word about socialism or communism and equity. The only way to ensure that everyone is equal is to normalize everything downwards. For example, it is impossible to make people more intelligent, but you can make them more stupid.
Yep.
The end result of the equalizing urge is to have a huge mass of idiots and the disabled. The dreams of the Marxists of a, quote, Goethe on every street corner has never and can never be realized. But I'm sure right now there are a bunch of very smart midwits convincing themselves that this time it will work, bros. Always this time it will be different. So, what are the Sustainable Development Goals?
Oh boy.
You can follow along with this handy chart, dear viewer. Goal 1, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. I cannot think of a vaguer statement, even if I tried. This is
That's exactly what I was thinking as you read that. I was like, what the hell does that even mean?
This is straight up communism from an economic perspective. The only way this would be possible would be for every person on Earth to have exactly the same income, rations, etc. This will mean a global, centrally planned economy, constantly adjusted to ensure that no one has any more wealth than anyone else, except the inner party, of course, who will be exempt naturally. In this context, it basically means universal basic income, extremely high taxes, central bank digital currencies, all of this kind of stuff.
And one of the reasons that this is an impossibility, and I say that with 100% conviction, is wealth and money is something people think of abstractly when it comes to poverty, wealth, success. But there's more to it than that. Resources, money is not just printed dollars. It's not just stacks of gold coins. It's what resources you have access to. Intelligence, motive, drive, a reason for people to create, a reason for people to make things. And if you don't have the materials on hand, you can never be equal with others. There is no way to equally get the same amount of resources, intelligence, and time and experience into everyone on the planet. It is an impossibility, this statement.
But not only that, the way this is always tackled is through development, which is essentially just Gibbs. Because the multilateral institutions cannot bear the thought that there are any differences between races, peoples, and nations. And, to the extent that there are, it is totally due to, social economic circumstances or racism or colonialism or whatever sort of left-wing conspiracy theory is active at the time, which means that the only way to fulfill goal 1 would be to have the UN sort of lord over a worldwide digital currency that is sort of handed out to different countries, like sort of on a whim, which would just would lead to incredible abuses. Goal 2, end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Well, this means eat the bugs and rationing quite clearly, but links very, very well into goal 1, of course. This would essentially be worldwide rationing. Goal 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Well, what the hell does that mean? At a guess, I would imagine that means vaccines, mandatory treatments, and universal low-grade medical care.
And mandatory puberty blockers for all citizens until they determine what gender they want to be.
Oh, mate, yeah. Probably.
You know it's coming. That idea is in somebody's head behind this crap right now. You know it.
Something tells me that not every nation will be subjected to this at the same time.
Are you saying there might be an anti-Western bias in this?
Yes.
I wonder if anybody else has noticed that.
Goal 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. This is essentially the UN control of education to produce a global red guard through brainwashing, social and emotional learning, trans, global citizenry, all this kind of other stuff. This stuff is already seeping into schools now. The UN is already setting curricula all over the world, and a lot of this curriculum is essentially taking time that would be used to learn things like math, English, or actual other skills, and replacing them with things like diversity and inclusion training, media literacy, which is basically sort of pre-bunking to not listen to anyone but the mainstream media, etc., etc., etc. I think the essential
just like
goal
we see
is
with the gender grooming and the sexual
Yep.
grooming of children. They want to do that with every facet of existence.
I think the goal is to have a class of people who are only just smart enough to do the sort of barest technical tasks. They will be essentially consumers. But I think, again, this is likely to blow up in their face. I think the way that they're looking at it is they think that AI will be able to take care of everything complex. But then who looks after the AI? Of course, this won't be for everyone. Despite the inclusive and equitable language here, there are bound to still be elite schools. After all, the inner party are not going to send their children to this kind of a horror show. Goal 5. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Well, this evidently is the emasculation and demonization of men in all walks of life, quite obviously. Goal 6. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. This essentially is water rationing, but could also involve some very, very sinister stuff like mass population relocation and all kinds of crazy stuff.
And give them the control to put whatever chemicals that they want in the necessary water everyone must drink.
Goal 7. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Not with nuclear power, though, obviously, the only way that you could actually do that. So this will be more green energy rationing, carbon credits, energy credits that will control essentially every aspect of your external life. And I've got to say, when it says healthy lives, they probably also mean vaccine passports and all that kind of like other stuff in there. You know what I mean? A sort of
because how can you have a healthy life unless you have official paperwork or the official digital code that says so? To know you are healthy, you must be classified as healthy. And how do we do that? Mandatory health passports and a never-ending series of mandatory vaccines.
Yes. Don't think of it as an invisible prison. Think of it as an invisible hug, right? The state is
the never-ending invisible hug.
Reaching out with its arms to enclose you in its invisible hug, right? And make sure that you don't do anything. And of course, what this is trying to inculcate is a situation which is the complete opposite of the traditional sort of liberal standard, that anything that the government does not say is illegal is legal by default. In such a system, everything will be illegal apart from the very specific things that government says are legal. And you would essentially be in a position where before you do anything, from wiping your ass to, leaving your house, you must consider what the government thinks of this action. Do you have enough carbon credits? Do you have enough energy credits, etc., etc.? Goal 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Well, this is, again, a big plank of communism, or many left-wing governments have tried for this full employment kind of thing. And what basically essentially winds up happening is that you just make a bunch of make-work jobs for people. I don't know. The way stuff's going, it wouldn't surprise me if, the government creates like a couple of 100,000 jobs of people to just sit at home playing video games, essentially, right? Like that's your job now, right? Like they make an MMO that's, I don't know, like, runs like a cryptocurrency miner or some crazy
something like
stuff
that. Yeah.
This would basically be global micro usury, command economy, make work useless jobs, the USSR, essentially.
Yep.
Goal 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. In this context, resilient means anything that supports the SDGs. So this would allow the complete takeover of infrastructure and limiting access based upon social credit or some other arbitrary score, of course. Goal 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. The important part of this, of course, is among countries. What this means is that poor and rich countries will not be allowed. Thus, the individual purchasing power of a US citizen must fall to that of Jamaica. Interesting fact about Jamaica is that it is essentially midway in the rank tables in terms of purchasing power parity. So every country above that will have to be reduced to the level of Jamaica. I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that. Goal 11. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. To be mass surveillance, digital infrastructure, more migrant hotels, etc., etc. Goal 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Rationing, eat the bugs. Goal 13, and by the way, you might want to notice that it appears, I'm not the only person who have pointed this out, it appears that the number 17 was particularly chosen because a bunch of these sort of double up. You could have very easily compressed this into 10.
Into
So
like
perhaps
5
the
even.
more,
Yeah.
the more schizo among you might want to look up the number 17 and see if you think that has anything to do with it.
I highly recommend that all of you do that.
Mhm.
You might learn something about some very important things that you won't learn otherwise.
Goal 13. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Centralized control of all energy consumption, which effectively means carbon tracking, carbon passports, etc. See, this is just a duplication of one of the earlier ones. Goal 14. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. This is going to be no more fishing, no more boats, and probably the privatization of nature spaces in a sort of
no more
great
hunting, no more
enclosure
fishing,
country.
no more growing your own food, no more subsistence living off of natural land. There will be no more natural land. It will all be organized, itemized, and digitized by the party.
Goal 15. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. This is probably going to lead to natural asset companies, which will monetize nature and use it to back a new currency. The end of farming, complete privatization of the commons, to do nothing with them. In case you're not aware of natural asset companies, perhaps we should do something on this. But the idea is that, often when currencies hyperinflate, a really good example of this would be the assignat under the French Ancien regime before the French Revolution. In order to support the value of the assignat, the French government seized all of the lands of the church and used it to back a new currency. This is an old trick. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, loyal viewers, when a government starts printing money out of thin air, hyperinflation is the inevitable result. It might take 10 years, it might take 50 years, 100 years, but inevitably it is the result. It is a law as iron as any other in economics. And when the rubber hits the road, one of the ways to support a failing hyperinflated currency is to seize a whole bunch of stuff and then use that to back the currency with. But it has to be hard.
Let me remind my Ameribros that only around 100 years ago, the government confiscation of gold to fuel this new crazy idea of Keynesian fiat currency.
Yes, indeed. Goal 15. Oh, no, wait, hang on. We did that. Goal 16. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. I don't know about you, Yiz, but I'm starting to get the opinion that a peaceful society and an inclusive society is kind of at odds with one another.
Yeah.
Provide
because it doesn't sound very peaceful if someone wants to eradicate the natural world, enslave everyone, destroy all race and ethnic identity, remove religion from the table, and create a mongrel slave race of basically flesh and blood robots. That doesn't sound very peaceful to me. I feel like to achieve those goals, you're gonna have to be unpeaceful to get there.
No, but Yiz, you got to understand, right? Once they've killed everybody off, it will be extremely peaceful. There'll be no one around to make any trouble. It'll just be peace. as far as the eye can see, right?
Once they get rid of those pesky Europeans.
Yes. Yes, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. That just sounds like the biggest anti-white thing I've ever heard.
Yep.
Inclusive justice. Yeah, well, we all know what that means by now, don't we? This is so vague as to be meaningless. Probably Antifa-style justice everywhere, and infinity Africans, obviously, for more diversity.
They basically want to happen to every one of us, starting with white people, but eventually the whole world. Anyone who says no to this, they want them to get the South African farmer treatment. That's what this is going to do.
Yes. And goal 17, the last one. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. So, this is the UN and its organs pressuring other stakeholders in order to make sure that they don't start considering their own interest when everything starts to go horribly wrong. Binding global treaties that the globalists can use to enforce their will upon local populations and other stakeholders. Now, we're getting, that was quite long. So I've got a few other things that I just thought I would point out.
No, take your time. If we go a little over, that's fine. We started like 5 minutes late anyway, so it's all good. Take your time and do your presentation. We got all the time we need. We're good.
So I was going through this, as is my wont in my autistic way. And I came across this, which is a bit of giveaway. This is point number 29, I believe, from the either the preamble or the body of the text. 29. We recognize the positive contribution of migrants for inclusive growth and sustainable development. We also recognize that international migration is a multi-dimensional reality of major relevance for the development of countries of origin, transit, and destination, which requires coherent and comprehensive responses. We will cooperate internationally to ensure safe, orderly, and regular migration involving full respect for human rights and the humane treatment of migrants, regardless of migration status, of refugees, and of displaced persons. Now,
unless you're white.
You know who is missing from this? The populations in those countries being targeted by these migrant flows. That they don't seem to care about them for some reason. Such cooperation should also strengthen the resilience of communities hosting refugees. Now, remember, resilience means doing what the UN says. So make sure that, the communities receiving the refugees keep doing what we say, particularly in developing countries. Developed countries, well, everything's already great there, so we don't have to do anything. We underline the right of migrants to return to their country of citizenship, and recall that states must ensure that their returning nationals are duly received.
So basically, this says that to realize their goals, they must annihilate the concept and the practice of nationals' ethnic sovereignty.
Pretty much, yes. Well, what do
you
think?
But only for European countries.
Yes. So what do you think a global citizen means? Yes. However, shocking shock, bros. All is not sunshine and roses for the global communists at the United Nations. It seems their agenda is hitting more roadblocks than they expected. Surely the reasonable response to this would be to say, well, how on earth did you expect everyone to be on board with this? There has never been a global empire. What makes you think that you are the people to make one? What power of fire and sword do you have to bring the whole world to heel? Now, let's just remember the people at the United Nations are not there's no Churchills there, no Hitlers, no Mussolinis, no Alexander the Greats. Just think of sort of any sort of like leader. I mean, I guess they do have people like Tony Blair, but many of the old guard are dying off. People such as Kissinger. And I honestly think that were Kissinger still alive and still in his sprightly sort of years at the full peak of his faculties, he would probably have turned around and said, this is a terrible idea. You're moving too fast. People are never going to buy this. The whole thing is going to crash and burn. And maybe they would have all told him to screw off. Evidently, however, the one thing that the UN does not lack is both hubris and anti-whiteism. Of course, this article from Fox, that racial harmony is a fallacy. This is from the United Nations Climate Advisor. I believe a second in command, a climate youth advisor. But, look, she hasn't been fired, obviously. This is the general tenor and thrust of what's going on. Now, if you look at the 2023 Sustainable Development Report, oh, yes, they have a report every year. They come and, I imagine, hang out in Geneva or somewhere very, very nice, drink champagne, eat smoked salmon, and, get nice massages while they are paid to sit around and bemoan the fact that we don't have global communism. And the sort of whining is quite interesting in the 2023 report.
Yep.
Halfway to the deadline for the 2030 agenda, it shows that we are leaving more than half the world behind. Oh no. Progress on more than 50% of targets of the SDGs is weak and insufficient. Oh no. On 30%, it has stalled or even gone into reverse.
Oh no.
These
Are you saying communism doesn't work?
These include the key targets on poverty, hunger, and climate. Unless we act now, right now, don't think about it, we need to act right now. The 2030 agenda could become an epitaph for a world that might have been. Oh, I really hope so.
Yeah.
The world, we could have had global communism, bros. We could have had the USSR, but stretched across the entire planet. How
this
will
could
we
have been us,
survive
but you
without
had to be white and intelligent.
the COVID-19 pandemic and the triple crises of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution are having a devastating and lasting impact. This has been amplified by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has driven increases in the prices of food and energy and in the costs of access to finance, creating a global cost of living crisis affecting billions of people. Now, note, of course, they don't point out that much of this is to do with the policies of the World Health Organization, which is also part of the UN. This goes back to what I was saying earlier.
And they also don't mention how it was instigated for years by every American leader except Trump taking a big old crap on everything that Putin and Russia was ever promised about NATO and NATO encroachment. And it also doesn't mention that the U.S.-Israel war machine are the ones who torpedoed the damn pipeline, the Nord Stream pipeline. They don't bring that up, do they?
No. Well, look, you have clearly been watching the wrong kind of news. Look, perhaps you got to get yourself
I need to update my firmware and my chip.
You got to get yourself to Snopes and do some real fact checking. You got to do better, right? Look really into your heart and think whether believing in conspiracies is the best thing for you, right? And just stop watching the news, right? Thinking for yourself. Developing countries are bearing the brunt of our collective failure to invest in the SDGs. Many face a huge financing gap and are buried under a mountain of debt. 1 in 3 countries is at high risk of being unable to service their debt. Well, you could reform the global monetary system and stop sort of driving the entire engine of the world based on usury, but something tells me that is not going to be addressed. Instead,
of course, that usury is religion to these people. They can't put it down.
They indeed cannot put it down. It has become the air that they breathe. The idea that countries that cannot service their debt should get larger loans that they will then be unable to service in the future is look, it's designed this way, right? Like
we have the blood of Jesus, they have the blood of the market.
the blood of Shylock, right?
Oh, careful, Goy.
Developed countries adopted expansionary fiscal and monetary policies during the pandemic and have largely returned to pre-pandemic growth paths. Yes, well, why did they do that? Nothing to do with the UN, obviously. But developing countries were unable to do so, in part because of the risk that their currencies would collapse. So they couldn't just print currencies willy-nilly. But the developed world can. Official flows of development assistance are far below the long-standing commitment of 0.7% of gross national income. That's, by the way, that's quite interesting figure, that, by the way. 0.7% of gross national income. That doesn't mean 0.7% of tax intake. That means 0.7% of the entire totality of what your economy makes, which is probably quite in excess of tax take. Right. And the financial markets routinely charge developing countries interest rates up to 8 times higher than developed countries. Why do you think that is? Racism.
Because Wait. I was going to say because of the never-ending predatory practices of international usury, but again, I might need a firmware update.
Right. So I've got like this whole thing on this. Right. I'll skip ahead of it. In conclusion, as horrible as this push for global communism is, it does look like it is failing. Just reading the 2023 SDGs is full of exhortations to do better, without, of course, any recognition that the policies the UN have instituted may have had anything to do with the current situation. This is a curious paradox. On the one hand, the United Nations claims that it has the power and mandate, through its stakeholders, of course, to change the world. Yet, on the other hand, when things go wrong, there is zero accountability or admission that these very policies may have been a contributing cause. For example, where's this? I've got so many of these images. Excuse me. No. I'll just read it. While the worst of the pandemic appears to be over, the world is still reeling from its impacts. There it is. The recovery has been slow, uneven, and incomplete. The pandemic has created significant reversals in global health outcomes. Childhood vaccinations have experienced the largest decline in 3 decades, and tuberculosis and malaria deaths have increased compared with pre-pandemic levels. COVID has also had a devastating impact on education, causing learning losses in 4 out of 5 of the 104 countries studied. I was told many times this was a conspiracy theory. I can't believe that the United Nations is now spreading conspiracy theories.
Remember 2 years ago when it was big in our circle of the news about that one study that showed in young children with the mask thing that they had diminished human interaction capability because they couldn't see faces?
Yes.
I got a channel strike for covering that, even though it was a mainstream news story. They struck my channel and removed that video. And this is exactly what they're talking about. So it's like, this is just how we have, this is how it, I get angry about that. I get angry when they say it's a lie when I say something is true, even though they cover it. And then a year or two later, they act like, oh, well, we know this and this is official and it's always been this way. It makes me so mad.
The economic after effects are equally severe. The pandemic interrupted 3 decades of steady progress of poverty reduction, with the number of people now living in extreme poverty increasing for the first time in a generation. It has also caused the largest rise in between country inequality in 3 decades. These effects, of course, are a direct consequence of the policies supported by the WHO. Not only is there no awareness, there is the exact opposite. If the policies cause problems, it is clearly evidence that the policies did not go far enough. Many of the SDGs are... Oh, wait, hang on a minute. Yes, the lack of progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals is universal, but it is abundantly clear that the developing countries and the world's poorest and most vulnerable people are bearing the brunt of our collective failure. This is a direct result of global injustices that go back hundreds of years, but are still playing out today. The compounding effects of climate, COVID, and economic injustices are leaving many developing countries with fewer options and even fewer resources to make the goals a reality.
Well, whose fault is that?
Many of the SDGs, of course, are transitional demands that are never meant to be solved, but are intractable problems that can always be used to garner more money, influence, and political power. For example, at the way things are going, it will take 286 years to close the gender gap in law and discrimination. I mean, this is
aim high, Willis. Aim high.
I mean, it's just like 286 years, right? Just let that sink in. 286 years ago, we were in the 1700s. The UN is clearly bumping up against the edges of reality, and they do not like it. The 2023 report is full of the usual leftist exhortations to do better, gives more money, etc. But as many of these social transformationists are discovering, there are limits to money. You cannot buy your way out of human nature. Something that seems shocking to those who have been raised on the idea that it is capitalism that is the problem, and if only enough gibs were given, a paradise would ensue. Therefore, the UN SDGs are doomed to fail. The question is, how much collateral damage will they cause before the UN is finally discredited as an organization and governments begin to either withdraw or simply disregard its edicts? I suspect that day is coming closer, as evidenced by the mad scramble of organs like the World Health Organization to codify their powers into unbreakable treaties. That's it.
All right. So that presentation, let me get my notes open here. That was well done, Chris. I had a lot of fun with that. I know I interrupted and interject some, but
no. It's fine. That was a lot longer than I thought it would be. It's always hard when you've got these big
it's
chunks
great.
of text you're trying to relate reference.
Like I said, we don't always have to end right at the hour mark. It's just I like we keep the stream tidy. We're still doing good, but no, I'm in a really great mood today. I loved your presentation, so I had a lot of fun back and forth with you. So I know I interrupted you a few times. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm going to be focusing on point 10.7 and to remind everyone that the lies are often merely the opposite of what they say. They say the goal is to reduce inequality, when in reality, these policies and the people with real power who push these policies want to enhance and magnify inequity along the lines which serve them. So, like always, very oftentimes when it comes to this NWO doublespeak and the lies in the media and the lies that we are expected to believe about the path our countries are on and things like that, pretty often the opposite of what they say is true if you scrutinize it. Two examples. The first we're going to look at today is Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. This is a snippet that I first came across about 4 years ago when I did a deep dive into the Biden plan, which Chris and I watched together live on stream a month or two ago, and it was a lot of fun. So these are clips from a 2017 or 2018 document. So this is already 6 or 8 years old. And you can see it was the same anti-white, anti-Western mind poison as Chris just read about today, as they talk about it today.
So which slide?
Oh, you were on the correct one. You were on the correct one. Yeah.
I was on the correct one. Okay.
Yeah, it's the bundle of these. Yeah, transforming our world. Yeah. So let's see. These slides talk about. Excuse me. These slides show how the terms involved should be recognized for what they are, which is, I like to use the term NWO doublespeak. The Go Free method calls these things mimetic pathogens. But these mimetic pathogens, these aren't the ones for the plebs, us, me and you listening to this right now, unless you happen to be part of the managerial bureaucrats. The types of language, the mimetic pathogens in this kind of material, they are designed for the managerial elite. Like we've spoken about in earlier episodes of this stream series, the propaganda, the mind war, is mostly for the ones that have to carry out all of this crap around the world in the upper class, in the upper crust of society, the people that actually enforce and create and pen and legislate law, the people that work large business and finance. They are the ones that actually have to be enslaved into this ideological religious stuff. And this is who the propaganda is designed for. So not only does the NWO doublespeak serve them to keep plebs just ignoring it, because when you hear all of this hogwash and all of these terms about meeting all these goals, and I can't even remember half the stuff that Chris read because it's just nonsense to my brain and I can't retain it. It's designed that way on purpose, so you don't think about it. But the people who have to think about it, leaders, bureaucrats, etc., they have to accept this stuff and think on it. And so they make it as nice and as approachable and as relatable to the Western biospirit as they can. That's why these things are phrased the way that they are. So let's go ahead and tab through these slides here. I'm not going to read out all the highlighted stuff. This is just for those of you looking at home. The things I just talked about, all the last couple paragraphs I read, we're going to go slowly through the slides so you can look at them as part of educating yourself. You can pause it, look at these things that I've highlighted. These are the mimetic pathogens specifically for the managerial elites. They talk about things like human rights, equality, doing what's good for the climate. These are mimetic pathogens to get all of the managerials, the lawyers, the people on board with what they want. Because if If a powerful, non-voted for body from around the world that's not even part of your country comes over to you with a lobbyist and says, hey, I really need you to like abort a lot more white babies, and I really need you to start to get white men to kill themselves 30% more often. I need you to do that for me. Most sane people, even if you offered the money, would say, I'm not doing that. You're crazy. Get out of here. But if you approach them and say, we're concerned about women and girls, so we need you to do this for us, for health services for young women. And then comes in the NGOs and the activist groups with all of that legal and financial framework already in place to push the mind poison, the child grooming, the transgender agenda. All of these other things come in because of that. So
and
this
of course,
is
the
why,
diversity.
and of
Let's
course,
not forget the
the
diversity.
diversity. So go ahead and tab through the rest of these until we get to the NGO that I'm going to talk about.
Right. Okay. They're actually in the other direction. Hang on.
Yeah, we'll have to go back to the start.
Here we
there
go.
We
the
go.
New American Economy, right?
Yeah, that's where it starts. All right. So in closing about Agenda 2030, excuse me, where are we at here? Yes, pay special attention to how the language of the slides we just showed subconsciously triggers positive responses, not just in your mind, but as it would in the mind of a legislator, a business owner, or a politician. Think of concepts like replacement, empowerment, optimization, modernizing, fulfilling potential, and even the word equality itself. These words have positive connotations, such as getting a replacement part for a device or appliance is good, because you don't replace something unless it's broken and there's a newer, better version, right? So that has a positive connotation. That's how the mean pathogens are crafted for these people. Another example, modernizing migration. We see that a lot. I covered that in my Biden plan video. Modernizing processes or technology is good because we've been conditioned to believe that newer is always better. Line must always go up, comrade, not just for money, but for all progress. And that technology can only ever get better, not worse. So that's part of consumerism, and that's another topic. But we'll touch on that another day, and we touched on it a little bit in our first video on this series. So now we come to this beast here, the new American economy. Now, the mind war, the psyops, the bombarding with political entertainment, all the messaging that Hollywood people, politicians, rich people, all the stuff that they get is to prime them to accept and work with groups like New American Economy. Now, I'm going to share the link to New American Economy in the chat right now because I don't want you to think I am making this up. This is a real organization, and it is so...
Of course, it's a real organization. Just look at the way the website is constructed. This is peak global home. It's got a green border.
I know, right?
Like it's good, right?
This is a real thing that I'm about to showcase to you, and there are hundreds of these in America, hundreds of these organizations just like this, and there are probably thousands around the world that do this same kind of crap. Let me go back to my notes instead of speaking off the cuff here. All right. Democracy is a lie, and I hope that all of you listening have learned that by now. The people that we elect are not beholden to their voters, but to people like this right here, activist organizations funded by the most powerful people on earth. And perhaps, worse than that, loyal to the global anti-white agenda or global communism. The New American Economy is one of many organizations like this which act as morality police and policy pushers for local governments. Go ahead and tab to the next one for me. You can see here, let's see here. They persuade or intimidate mayors, mayoral executives, sheriffs, etc. to usher in harmful policies to the host population. And of course, we are white. We live in the West. So these are anti-white racial policies against us, especially along the lines of immigration, commerce, trade, and taxation. Organizations like the NAE exist to carry out the anti-white globalist agenda of infinity migrants to white erase all of our countries, all of our ethnicities. And they have been doing so for over a decade. Let's go to the next slide. Yes. personal narratives to frame immigration. Now, this is a big deal because how you frame the literal ethnic genocide or ethnocide of a people, you have to do several steps without just doing it with brute force warfare and extermination by military power. The UN actually has a long list of these that you can go look up on your own. But this is how they are walking white people into willingly accepting every step on the genocide ladder via propaganda, lawfare, and the mimetic pathogens in entertainment media. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay. There we go. A major resource for journalists, advocates, and policymakers. Again, these are the organizations that create slideshows, apps, movies, propaganda to enforce local mayoral executives, state executives to give to their aldermen, their sheriffs, things like that. This is where the paused ESG, SDG, UN goals, this is how they are disseminated to where you live. I don't care if you live where I live in local Appalachia. I am sure without even looking, this poison is being handed on the desk of people that run local cities here. Guarantee it. Because this is everywhere now. It's ubiquitous. Every mayor, every alderman, every local judge, every sheriff's office has to contend with this crap because it's everywhere now. Absolutely everywhere in everything. So sight unseen, I guarantee you this kind of crap is going on even where I live here in East Tennessee. All right. Next slide, pretty please. All right. This is the conclusion of their pitch, right? I'm going to read this out. The NAE started as an idea. What would happen if we tried to bridge a gap in our nation's immigration debate? What if we could see past deep-seated division that have stood in the way of progress on this issue? You can see this, the hammer and sickle behind me while I'm speaking, can't you, Chris?
Yeah, indeed. Why is there such deep-seated division? Oh, we don't know. Maybe social media, like
it's like, maybe 50 years of every piece of media, politician, and even preachers telling me I be racist because I be white. All right. So what started as an idea has grown into a national movement fueled by groundbreaking research and grassroots advocacy. We have established a presence in every state, built lasting relations across the political map, and generated significant buy-in from the media and other relevant influencers, Washington, D.C., and beyond. Now, remember, listener, this is not aimed at you. This is not aimed at your friends or your church or your gun club or the people that you work with. This is aimed at local legislators, local judges, sheriffs, mayors, state representatives. This is the kind of material given to them. Now look at that last paragraph there. It's saying the feds in DC accept this. Won't you? Be a real shame if something was to happen to your stuff, wouldn't it? This is the fox, the soft, the feminine protection racket. This right here is the effeminate, pathetic piece of crap anti-white version of Vinny the Nose in the Mafia that comes to your shop and it's like, be a shame if something was to happen to all the goods you got out here. You best give us 50 a week. Yeah. Like this is how they are running a protection racket. This is how they do it, is with this kind of organization. All right, go to the last slide here.
I'd just like to also point out,
go ahead.
Many people don't realize that much of the propaganda that is suffusing modern society is not actually for them. It is for the ruling managerial elite class. This is one of the reasons why gatekeeping into those classes has increased so severely in the last decade. Mm-hmm. They have to make sure that anyone who gets into any kind of position of power is susceptible to the propaganda aimed specifically at that class. And this is how they do it. This is one of the reasons why it seems that the more posed you are, the higher you can rise, because now the most important feature that you can display if you want to be in a position of power is susceptibility to and acceptance of regime propaganda.
Mm-hmm. So here's the last slide and I'll wrap it up. Here you can see on this slide, 43 cities and counties in America are already members of the NAE's agenda. Ergo, leaders of local government who at least officially agree with and accept UN Agenda 2030. And this has been in the works for many, many years. And remember, there are hundreds of organizations like this that work in your country where you live, pushing this, enforcing this. These are the moral enforcement. They are the mafia enforcers for the Israel-United States global hegemon of usury. This is how they do it. It's not Vinny with a bat coming to where you live. It's not a Muslim with a knife that comes to threaten your daughter. These people are what shapes the anti-white agenda in your white country. This right here. This is where systemic anti-whiteism is enforced. This is how their religious dogma is enforced. This right here. Now, I know that's really dark, but I'm not going to end on a dark note. Let's go to Embiggen, Chris. All right, there we go. In closing, I have this to say. The goal of this kind of language, like we talked about, isn't to convince us, the lowly plebs who are meant to be crushed into submission and then utterly replaced. Like we spoke of in previous episodes, all of this doublespeak, all of these meme pathogens, is not for us, but for those who rule us. The businesses, the lawfare, even the law enforcement that will threaten us one day will not last. We have lived through, believe it or not, worse than what's coming for us now. We have lived through famine, disease, evil kings, wars. Everything that we have lived through and survived and thrived is a testament to our race, is a testament to our spirit, and is a testament to our way of life and believing in the things that give us purpose. Logos, religion, family, nature, truth. Remember, real science is us. Those of us who believe in God or gods, those of us who believe in the divine order, the natural order, we are where real science comes from, not the fake science. We are where real civics and real leadership and real ideologies form, not this evil, vacuous, fake stuff. This is destined to fail. And the reason why we chose to use the word communism in the title and call this communism, because technically it is because communism always fails, guys. It can never succeed. It cannot. In the physical universe we occupy, in the laws that we know to be true, it can never be. We know it will fail. So we must be strong. So this is the positive point of my presentation. The mask has slipped, and there is an immense cultural resistance building. We will pull more and more of these managers out of their anti-white narrative and into our narrative. We see this across the West, especially in the Anglosphere. We see from Patriotic Alternative in England to America First in America. We don't all agree on everything, and a lot of us aren't even racially conscious, but we are fighting back against this global communist concept, this structure that is destroying us. And it won't last, and it can't last. And you can be a part of it by simply adhering to truth, believing in God or gods if you're not a Christian, and speaking that truth to all who have the ears to hear it, and creating and generating positive culture and putting positive pressure on the people that rule your local area. This is why I say all the time, I don't care who runs Washington, D.C. I care who runs East Tennessee. I care who the local sheriff is. You should too. This is where you can have real power and influence, and this is how you should care. This is how you should go about making change for the future and securing an existence for white children. So that's where I'm going to wrap it up. That's what I have to say about SDG and its sustainable garbage. And that's what I have to say about communism and or global communism and anti-whiteism. So
can I just add something on?
Oh, please do. Yes, please.
Always, as much as possible, speak the truth. You know, like, yes, like people see stuff differently, but speak the truth. These systems cannot survive without lies. They are built upon lies. They are the empire of lies. But you know, it's not just a cute branding. Without lies, without the twisting of reality, without the ability to convince people to ignore the evidence of their own senses, these systems cannot exist. The more people who stubbornly insist upon speaking the truth, the ground truth, the very obvious truth, the harder it is to get people on board. So, you know, it might be difficult, but do it. Speak the truth. Everyone who hears you, like, let's not forget the Ash conformity experiments. If just one person stands up and talks, everyone who hears it will become a little less certain about the lie being put forward. Never underestimate that just one person can make a difference. Thanks.
Absolutely. All it takes is one person that you influence to change their whole life or to change others' lives, because then later when it matters, maybe in a boardroom meeting when they're 15 years older, because of what you said at church or because of what you said around the water cooler, that planted that seed in their head to resist, to speak the truth when it matters. Maybe 15 or 20 years later, they'll have power. They'll be in a place of influence, and you will have changed the future because of that. So we've actually had quite a bit of community engagement. So let's go ahead and get to that, Chris, unless there's anything else you'd like to say.
No. That's great. Just, thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. We love it.
And we hit 120 live viewers again this week.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Great it's great. And I appreciate you guys watching and sharing the videos. Thank you so much. You've definitely helped us just feel like we're doing the right thing and we're not alone. So thank you guys so much. All right. We actually have a lot to get to. People have been very generous with their money again, Chris. So let's.
It means so much, bro.
It's going to take us a bit to get through all this, but if you have the time, I would like to give all of these a proper response and address what's come in. Let's see. I'm trying to think of where to start. Let's start over on PayPal, because a lot of those came in early, and we have some stuff to get to over on Odyssey and Rumble as well. So let's go to PayPal. And if I miss any of you, I'm sorry, but a lot of these come in during the stream and some of them ahead of the stream. So if I miss your donation, I'm very sorry. E. Essington sent one with no message a couple weeks ago, but I'm pretty sure I addressed that one. This week on PayPal, we have from Dawn Sanderson. Dawn sends in $10. Thank you so much, Dawn. And there's no message. Oh, she just sent us in $10. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you so much. And also with no message on PayPal, Pawa Purge, or Pawya Purge, P-A-W-A Purge, P-A-W-Y-A Purge, Pawya Purge. I don't know if that means something or I'm just missing it, but donated last week as well and sends in another $5 with no message this week. Thank you so much. Thank you. And give me just a moment. Sorry. Things are a bit slow here.
Okay. Dead air. We can't have dead air.
It's just I'm trying to open up and refresh all the sites at once. Let's see. I don't want to miss anybody on Entropy or Subscribe Star. Let's refresh these. Okay. Still nothing on Entropy tonight. Interesting. Okay. Over on Subscribe Star, we have Sister E. Essington back with us again. Thank you so much for your no message $10 last week. I think I addressed it. I might not have, but just to make sure I covered it last week. Thank you. This week, she sends in another $10. And she says, last week's stream about the Procrustean bed was brilliant. I look forward to tonight's installment, which I'll have to watch tomorrow. Well, I appreciate it. I loved last week. I thought it was great, and I'm glad you liked it too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Still nothing on Entropy. We did PayPal. That's good. Let's go to Odyssey now. We have two things on Odyssey. At the beginning of the stream, we had Jeffrey Mill, our friend Jeffrey Mill.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Howdy, Jeff. Good to see you here. Nice to see you over on the Habiting TV a lot. For $10, thank you again. He says, have to watch the replay tomorrow because my wild puppy has kept me up too many nights. You two are doing brilliant work. Last week's episode was especially poignant, and he sends a heart of 14, or a white heart and the number 14. Well, 14 to you and white heart to you too, sir. Thank you very much. Also on Odyssey, Alex sends in $14.88 in USD. I wonder if that number has a significant meaning to anyone. And thank you, brother. I'm not doing the Roman salute here since I'm on cam and all that. So thank you. He says, reject modernity, Yiz, embrace being blonde. And yes, I used to have platinum blonde hair, but this is my natural color. I want to be natural as I get old. I don't want to look old and funny. I want to be as natural as possible. I do paint my nails, but I don't like wear makeup or do anything else. So it's dark hair for me, Alex. I know you like the platinum, but I'm going to stay dark-headed and natural. And hopefully I'll go gray soon. I'm already starting to get some gray hairs. And a lot of people in my family get stark white hair when they get older. So I'm hoping I'm one of them. That'll be awesome. All right. So thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. All right. Obviously, I can't do super chats on YouTube. So we're going to move now to Rumble. And we have a very generous from Schrodinger's Gaffney. Good to see you here, Schrodinger's Gaffney. I know you from around the way in several chats. He sends us $25.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. $25. He says, brilliant presentation as usual. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay. Last but not least, we have Cash App. And I think that'll be it. We have Cool Papa J Magic. Oh, good to see you, brother. I see you around in a lot of streams. He sent in $10 US. Thank you. And he says, great stream series, guys. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man.
It really means a lot. Thank you. Because Chris and I put a lot of work into this stream series, and I'm glad that it means something to you guys. Oh,
just my whole week is just like working on the scripts for these. My brain is never, and then like Friday comes around, and I'm just like, oh, I get one day my brain to
basically I have to wait until this stream is over each week before I can mentally change gears and just relax and enjoy stuff. Because mine and Chris's minds are going full tit. Listen to me, full tilt, full tit. We're going
the
full
tit is often in my mind. To be fair, yes.
Well, my lips are sealed on that one, but my mind goes full tilt on propaganda and news and narrative control and all this stuff and like dissident authors and like Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday, I just get to unwind and take it easy and I sort of check out. Last but not least, on Cash App, $6 US from Jason Kuna, the No White Guilt guy. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thanks,
Thank
Jason.
you for the Go Free method. He says, great show, Folk, Tithe, and Kip. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I don't think we've missed anyone. I think we've gotten everything. We did Rumble.
Someone says they just tipped on Entropy.
Oh, good. Stumbling. Okay, let's go read.
So
they did. I see it. Okay. Yeah, that's stumbling.
It.
Yeah. Stumbling is sick on Entropy for a citation needed or something. I'm not an academic. So I don't really know what that means, but I know it's something to do with that because I am partially an educate. Anyway, over on Entropy for $5 US, Stumbling over says, fantastic stream. Now go take your white pills. We are all so powerful we don't yet understand. We will win and we'll live happier and healthier lives than we do now. I agree, brother. I agree.
Yeah. Awesome. Great message. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, then we have come to the end of the stream, ladies and gentlemen. Next Monday, we'll be back with more Discordant Dragons. And of course, next Thursday, we will have more Empire of Lies. And Chris has on Monday and Thursday, before this stream, he has the Happening TV, which is his entertaining, fun news show. Why don't you tell people about it and why they should subscribe to you while I share your link in the chat?
Well, you should, dear viewer, do you like the news, but are you bored with the way that it is presented? Did you wish that there was a long-haired, bespectacled weirdo who could read the news to you and you could just listen to it? Do you wish that the horrors of the world could be wiped away with some funny videos and cute animals afterwards? Well, do I have a stream for you? I don't say it's very good, but other people have said, come and watch Happening TV on Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. London time. Daylight savings is messing us all up at the moment. That's 4 p.m. New York time, but it's soon gonna whatever. Check it out.
Most of the year it's 3 p.m. New York time.
Yeah. Well, you can find all of my links on newsfist.net. Please come along. The chat is very comfy and we would love to see you there.
Indeed. Well, again, speak the truth to all who have the ears to hear it. Never give up. Be passionate, be truthful, and build positive culture and hold your local law enforcement leaders and business people accountable. Get in front of them. Make sure they are working for you to keep the paws out. Make sure they're not anti-white or anti-Christian or whatever else that they are doing to persecute you. Break them free of the anti-white narrative. That's what you need to do. So go and do, my acolytes. Now, Chris, is there anything you'd like to say in closing before we bounce?
No, not really. Just thanks for watching, everyone. It means so much. It's we do this for the community. It's if it was about the money, we'd be making cute cat videos on YouTube or talking about being trans or something like this is a really important project. It means a lot to us.
Mhm.
We're trying to get out, like, good information, and also sort of not black pill everyone, into the dirt, because there is a lot to be optimistic about. These totalitarian systems are always bite off more than they can chew. They always have so many moving parts, and the people that run them are always like so full of their own hubris. They're always very, very far up their own backsides, and that's why these things tend to fail. So thanks for watching, and it means so much.
Yep. God bless everyone. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys Monday for more Happening TV and Discord and Dragons. Good night.
See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.